Hello, and welcome to a journey through the Fallout series, one in which I hope will be a fresh look on the venerable franchise. I will be reviewing every Fallout game from two distinct standpoints. First is viewing it purely on its gameplay mechanics and how the game functions as a whole, and the second is how it stands up as a Fallout game. First off, a bit of history for those unfamiliar with the Fallout franchise. The OG Fallout was released in 1997 and was a spiritual successor to a game called Wasteland. It was developed over the course of about 3 to 4 years, and from what I've gathered, that's pretty accurate. I think they acquired it in like 1994. It was a tremendous success, and we already know that it spawned countless sequels and spin-off games. So how good of a game was Fallout? Coming from someone who started the series with the newer action RPG games like Fallout 3 and onward, it was very difficult for me to get into the originals. The games were already brutal for a newcomer, but it was like the type of challenging difficulty that becomes addicting, like Dark Souls or Cuphead. It has a transcendent quality about it that once you learn the mechanics, it becomes very enjoyable. I have no shame in admitting to constantly reference a guide in order to progress through the game, but near the end, I really didn't need it at all. This is the type of retro game people who complain about new games hand-holding the player should get into. Combat is your typical turn-based strategic affair. The game was originally developed to use the GURPS RPG system, then the creators of that system didn't want to be associated with such a violent product, forcing the team to come up with a system all their own. That system is the special system. That stands for strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck. These special stats boost certain skills you can put points into. It is pretty standard role-playing mechanics on that front. Not to make this sound like you're being pushed into the wasteland all your own with no direction, you have your Pip-Boy maps, and typically if you read what NPCs are saying to you, you can use that and a little bit of brain power and you'll be able to figure it out. You'll do just fine. The world you are allowed to explore is very unique and imaginative. At any moment while moving around on the world map, you could randomly encounter the TARDIS from Doctor Who, a crashed alien spaceship, or Godzilla's footprint. Each town, while small, feels special. The hub is quite literally a hub in the middle of the world where many people come together. Necropolis is a city full of ghouls, which are basically Fallout's version of zombies. Except not really. All that provides a unique juxtaposition from the bleak and depressing to some of the more zany, weird humor that's a staple in Fallout games to this day. World design along with the dialogue are what truly make Fallout a great game. Unlike the newer games with orchestral scores and upbeat 40s era music blasting all the time, the world is a much lonelier place, giving you the sense that all the old ways of humanity had been wiped completely away. Devoid of anything but savagery and the hope that things will one day return to a more peaceful time, this only serves to highlight the writing for me. Characters in the Fallout world have a warped sense of humor, sort of a self-aware wit to them, knowing their life sucks. Lines of NPC dialogue could branch out in any direction, often giving the player several ways to respond to a single thing. Few games can reach a level this deep with its writing. It is a treat to save your game before talking to an NPC, just to test the type of responses they will have. Before I wrap up, I want to point out some of my tiny little nitpicks and niggles about the game. Companions aren't very good. They're good pack mules, but the system to give and get equipment from them is so poor it is almost not worth the time. Ian is infamous for shooting the character almost as much as he hits the enemy. The most infuriating problem is when they block you in somewhere and you haven't saved in a while. I am a frequent saver, and as I start to leave the room, Ian stops in the doorway. The last time I saved was a quick save just after I turned in a quest. This was the first time playing through and it was my only save. Hours of my life wasted, with no way of getting around it. I rage quit the game for a while after that setback. Also, the game clock was such a sticking point that the developers literally had to make it inert. Yes, when you start the game, you are tasked with finding a replacement for your Vault's water chip. You only have 150 in-game days to do so, and that is not really a generous amount of time. It works to add agency to the player, but when you have a game that requires the player to learn as they play, It really isn't fair, and thankfully they patched that out. The clock is still there, but even with my fumbling, I never had it run out, so don't worry too much about it. Now for my conclusion. As a game, I would give Fallout a 7 out of 10. It isn't perfect by any means, but its great points stand out so much it really saves the game as a whole. As a Fallout game though, I have to give it a 10 out of 10. This is quintessential Fallout. No matter what later games do or do not, this is the blueprint they are all judged against. This is the most Fallout experience you can possibly have. I urge everyone who loves this series to really go back and give the older games a chance. And, well, that's all folks. I hope to see you next time, and I would love to hear your opinions in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to see the rest of these, or other Fallout videos, or other videos in general. And if you can, share it around. I'd like to get as many eyeballs on this as possible, and try to start like more of a robust conversation about Fallout going. I always go on the Fallout Amino app. I love debating people. So yeah, thank you for watching, and bye.